We are on cycle 1 of lesson 17. And for this chapter, you will need to have your book ready to go. Before we can start reading, though, we have to understand the impact of trauma on the brain. And trauma, if you remember from lesson 15, is a deeply intense and disturbing experience. It can have lasting effects mentally and physically on people. So let's read this little excerpt about the impact of trauma on the brain. A flashback is a psychological event in which an individual has a sudden, usually powerful feeling of re-experiencing a past experience. So it's like they're reliving it. In a flashback, a person may feel as though he or she is actually being drawn back into the traumatic experience, like it is still happening or happening all over again. A flashback mimics or copies a real experience because it provokes a similar level of stress in the body. So same level of stress comes back. The same hormones activated in the body at the time of the actual trauma due to the fight or flight response become reactivated during a flashback, causing the body systems to react in the same way again. So in this chapter, Max has a flashback, and so when we get there, I want you to tell me what that is. Open up your books to page 142. The chapter is Freak the Mighty Strikes Again. Please follow along. Even a total goon like me knows you can't stop Killer Kane, but I go ahead and try anyhow. My hands are still numbed out and I can hardly walk, so all I can do is sort of fall on top of him and try to shove him loose from her. I'm going, "Stop! I see you! Daddy, please, please stop, you're killing her!" He just twitches me away. He's made of iron and steel. He's gritting his teeth and squeezing her neck. You can see the white of her eyes, and she's not even trying to get away anymore. I try to get between them and I'm going, "I saw you kill her. I saw you kill Mom. I never forgot, not ever. I know what you did. I know!" It's like I'm trapped underwater or something, so weak and floaty I can't hardly fight him, can't prise his fingers loose from my mother's neck, from Loretta's neck. So here we see that it's going into a flashback. I hope some of you raised your hand or said here's the flashback. He thinks he's reliving his mother's death right now, because everything is mixed up and he's doing the same thing to Loretta Lee he did to my mom, choking the life out of her, and he's got that same cold killer look because he wants her to die, like he wanted Mom to die, and nothing else matters except what he wants. I'm there in the dark pushing at him. The light catches her eyes, and I can see her looking at me. She's so far away, it's like I'm 4 years old again, peeking out from behind the bedroom door and then running to bang my little fist at him while the light fades from her eyes. I want to pause here and I want to take a look at this first question here. On that first page of this chapter, Max calls Kenny Kane Daddy for the first time in the novel. Why? I want you to refer back to the impact of trauma on the brain article. Why do you think he called Killer Kane Daddy right here? Pause the video if you need more time. We are going to continue reading. We're going to start at, I can't get him loose. We're in the middle of the page. I can't get him loose of her, so all I can do is keep screaming, "I know you killed her. I saw you do it. You killed her, and I'll never forget, not ever." Finally, he jerks his head and I can feel him looking at me, and then his hands open. Loretta slips away and I can hear her breathing like a broken bird in the cellar dark. "What?" he says, reaching for me. "What did you say?" "I saw you do it," I say. "I saw you kill my mother." "You weren't but 4 years old," he says. And now his big hands are starting to curl around my neck. We're at the top of page 144. Except he's holding me soft. I can feel his heart beating and his cool breath in my face. That makes me want to fall asleep. "You can't possibly recall that event," he says. "You think you can, but you can't." "I can," I say. "I do." "That's the poison they put in your mind, boy. They brainwashed you into thinking you can remember." He's pulling me close, holding me soft by the neck, and now I can feel the pulse in his hands. "They never talk about it," I say. They don't have to because I can't ever forget it no matter how much I try. No, he says, and his face is so close I can feel the heat rising off him. Impossible. You can't. You were wearing brown corduroy trousers. I say, talking so fast it makes me shake inside. And the black t-shirt with no sleeves. I tried to stop you, but I couldn't, and you carried me into my room and put me to bed and told me I was dreaming. You locked me in that room and I ran to the window and broke it with my hand and started yelling for someone to come and help Mommy. My father sighs and said, Lord, I wish you hadn't done that, boy. It cost me years. They caught you, Daddy, and they put you away forever. Except then you fooled them and they let you go. I have to clean this up, he says, like he's talking to himself alone. I have to clean this up and get out of here. That's when his hands start to tighten hard and fast around my neck. I'm trying to fight him, but I'm so small and weak, and he's so big and strong, you can't stop him. No one can stop Killer Kane. He squeezes and squeezes and squeezes. I'm in this faraway place, falling backwards real slow and dreamy, when I hear a window breaking. Then a small faraway voice is saying, Put your hands up, villain! And I really am falling, and air is coming back into my lungs so fast it hurts. I'm lying there, all crumpled and sideways. I can see Freak. He's rolled down through the cellar window into the pile of coal, and he's trying to stand up. I'm warning you, he says in that fierce, bold way he has. He's got a squirt gun, one of those big blaster models that holds about a gallon of water. Killer Kane is looking at me. He's looking at Loretta, all crumpled and moaning. He's looking at Freak, at the top of page 156. He's looking at Freak. Then he shakes his head and goes, I know a real gun when I see it, you little monster. He makes a move, reaching out. Freak scuttles back a little ways, but he can't really run. And even if he could, there's no place to go. This is your partner in crime? Killer Kane says to me. I guess maybe you are a retard after all. Freak is pointing the squirt gun right at his face, and he says, Guess what I got for Christmas, Mr. Kane? Guess right, because your life depends on it. Killer Kane doesn't say anything. He's just reaching out real slow because he knows that Freak can't get away. This squirt gun, Freak says, and a chemistry set. That's what I got for Christmas. Killer Kane just looks at the squirt gun. He shakes his head like, who are you kidding? Sulfuric acid, Freak says, raising up the gun and sighting along the barrel. Good old reliable H2SO4, an oily, colorless, corrosive liquid used in dyes, paints, explosives, and many chemical experiments. I would like to let you know, scholars, that sulfuric acid is something that burns. So that corrosive, it means it burns. So if he actually sprayed this at Killer Kane, it would burn him. If he sprays it in his eyes, he'll go blind. Killer Kane says, You're lying, kid. You can't fool me. That's when Freak squeezes the trigger and sprays him right in the eyes. We are now on page 147. I hope you can feel the tension, that feeling of uncertainty. What's going to happen next? Then Killer Kane is screaming in this high, scared voice. His hands are scrubbing at his eyes, and it's like that scream wakes me up because the next thing I know, I've got Freak in my arms and I'm running through the dark for the stairs, running as fast as I can on feet I can't even feel. Go! Freak is yelling. He's right behind you. Go! I can't look back, but I can feel him, feel the icy cold of him on the back of my neck and my hands reaching blind to grab me, and then I'm going up the stairs, just flying. The steps are breaking under my feet, and he's howling in rage behind me. His hands are scrabbling at my ankles, and for just a second, he has me. I kick loose, and then we're up on the ground floor, bursting out of the cellar hole. I can see daylight coming through the boarded up plywood, and I cover Freak with my arms and just dive through that plywood. Wham! The sunlight blinds me, and we're skitter rolling through the clean, cold snow. Hands are grabbing me, and I'm fighting to get away. Easy, a voice says. Take it easy, kid, you're okay. Iggy Lee. He's looking down at me with red eyes, and you can see where he's been chewing at his beard. So that kind of shows what feeling, scholars. What feeling does Iggy have right now? Yeah, he's nervous. He's scared. He's probably been crying. He doesn't know what happened to Loretta. I'm sitting there in the snow squinting up at Iggy and all these cops. There must be 1,000,000 cops. And Freak is laughing like a maniac and saying, "It worked! He fell for it! Soap and vinegar and curry powder! It worked like a charm!" I don't understand what he's talking about right then. It's only later I figure out there wasn't any real acid in the squirt gun. It was soap and vinegar and curry powder that made Killer Kane think his eyes were burning up. Killer Kane, who was still rubbing frantic at his eyes and begging for help when they put the handcuffs on him and shove him into the back of the police van. So we know that Freak didn't actually put a super dangerous chemical into a squirt gun and try to shoot Killer Kane in the eyes. He had something that he knew would burn, but wouldn't make Kenny Kane blind for life. All I've got room to think about is poor Loretta. That's what I'm telling the cops, that she's down there in the cellar. I'm afraid that no one is listening, but they must be, because right away they're bringing her up out of the cellar, and Iggy is running to her and crying out her name. "She's still breathing," somebody says. Then Graham is shoving through the crowd of cops, and Grim is right behind her, and Gwen is there too, and everybody is making a big sloppy fuss, especially Graham, who is hugging me so tight I can't hardly breathe. The fair Gwen is hugging Freak, and she's saying, "I told you to stay in that car, didn't I? Didn't I?" Freak, he's looking over her shoulder at me, looking over Graham's shoulder, and he gives me the thumbs up sign as she carries him away. "Freak the Mighty," he says. "Freak the Mighty strikes again." And that's where we end our chapter, scholars. What I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to think about what point is the climax in the narrative. So at what point is the conflict, the problem, or that feeling of uncertainty, the tension? Where does it hit the highest point in this chapter? And then what moment would you consider the climax of the novel so far? Explain your thinking. When you're done, move on to cycle 2.